Hello and welcome to another insightful and informative webinar in our Decoding Digital Media series brought to you by MII, Media Impact International, in partnership with FaithTech. Today, we are exploring emerging technology trends, specifically focusing on three areas that we believe are going to open your minds to new perspectives. We're going to talk about AI, of course. Without AI, it's hard to talk about emerging trends. And we are also going to talk about an important topic called redemptive technologies, where you think about technology from a redemption perspective. This is a topic that's really touched my heart ever since I heard this term, for the very first time. And this is something that will really bless you as you go into the future with the right perspective of technology. And finally, we are also going to talk about cyber security, a very important topic, a topic that most of us don't even think about, but we should be thinking about. So those are the three big topics, and we have three expert guests that are going to share insights and wisdom and tools and tips and everything related to these three important topics. I'm going to give you a quick introduction of all three of our guests, but before I do that, I want to remind you that we have live chat in our webinar today, which means you can ask questions all through the chat, and there will be an expert waiting to answer all your questions related to any of the topic and even outside the topic. If you have any important questions that could help you, please ask us. And that's the whole idea and purpose of this webinar, which is to get all your questions answered and make sure that you're able to move forward with your media ministry. Now, let me take a minute to introduce our guests. I want to start with Ali. Ali Levlin draws on her experience and insights from working with leaders at some of the most innovative companies and ministries around the world to teach you practical approaches to navigating uncertainty and unlocking your true potential. Ali's background is in education, cross-cultural communication, and futuristic thinking. Ali has trained astronauts, designed next-generation technologies, has developed open source software. She has led missional movements around the world and has planned some of the largest purpose-driven collaborations in history. We are super excited to have Ali on this call and look forward to listening to her. Now let me introduce Kamal to you. Kamal Khairallah is a dedicated leader with a diverse background in entrepreneurship, management, technology, and mission work in the Middle East. At FaithTech, Kamal is committed to equipping and supporting Christian Arab technologists, driving innovation at the intersection of faith and technology. With experience in digital marketing, administration, and corporate development, he's passionate about creating lasting impact and leading with purpose. You are going to enjoy the perspective that Kamal brings to the topic of AI. Our third guest is someone who you are very familiar with. John Rawls has already been on the Decoding Digital Media show couple of times, and John is the founder and executive director of Kavana Media, a nonprofit business as missions endeavor working in over 100 countries in the area of digital engagement. Kavana Media serves missions teams and organizations by building strategic partnerships and solving the complex challenges of digital engagement so that mission teams can accomplish their Great Commission objectives. John is a husband, dad, pilot, former missionary. He holds multiple degrees and certifications in the areas of marketing and cybersecurity and desires to serve the King of Kings in seeing the renewal of all things. What a great group of guests, right? And today we are spread all over the globe, literally. I am here in India, and Kamal is joining in from the Middle East, and Ali and John are in the US. So you're getting a complete global coverage in today's webinar. So I can't wait to get started. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to remind you once again about questions and answers. Use the Q&A button to ask all of your questions anytime during the webinar, and one of our guests will be there to answer all your questions. Don't forget that. Keep asking questions. We love those questions. All right, let's dive into my discussion on emerging technology trends with John, Ali, and Kamal. Let's get started. John, welcome back to Decoding Digital Media webinar, and Ali and Kamal, welcome. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you taking your time to be here.
Great to be here.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Nancy.
Thanks, guys. I gave a formal introduction of you guys just before we started. So now I would like for you to give a little bit of insight to our audience about your life, your work, maybe just a quick update on a professional side and a little update on your personal side so that we know you a little bit more. So, John, why don't we get started with you? Our audience know you very well, but give us a little bit of peek into what's happening right now.
Well, on the personal side, probably two of the biggest things since the last time I've been able to hang out with you, Nachi, is my oldest son, who works for the government, works in cyber type stuff, got married to his high school sweetheart. They met
Mhm.
on the mission field. They grew up in Taiwan, and so they got married. Super excited about that to have a new daughter-in-law, and she's amazing. And her parents are still missionaries working over in Taiwan. So I feel like I've married into their mission org, which I love their org anyway on it. And just a few months ago, I don't know if I even told you about this, Nachi, but it's been 7 years, a little over 7 years since I got my cancer diagnosis, and it's supposedly non-curable, whatever it is, but I've continued to try to be healthy. If I've gained weight, it's because I'm not eating well, not because of my cancer. But my most recent time with my doctor, he said, I think maybe you're cured. And so I'm not even having to go back and do
Praise
scans. I
God.
just go back and once a year and he's going to press around and we'll see. God's Lord of all. So I don't want to ever lose the blessing of cancer and also the passion to work for the renewal of all things and for Jesus. But it was a tremendous encouragement to that. So I think those are two personal ones since the last time I got to hang out with you all here. On a professional side, we made a massive change as far as Kavanaugh, which is we started this as a business's mission, but we only work with nonprofits. And we have just found the limit of how far we can go as a business doing this when we're saying no to business and only wanting to serve missionaries. And so we got our 501(c), our nonprofit status. It happened in 1 month, which I think is, because we're talking about the government, that's never fast. So for us to get that fast was amazing. And so that's going to, I hope, open up some new doors of partnership for us and allow us to have people working with us and maybe us working with them and their organizations in a more collaborative type of way. So that's probably big updates from my end.
I love that. I love it. I love all the updates, but especially the one that your doctor was involved in. I love that. Love
Yeah,
that
thank
kind of stuff. Thank you. Praise God. Believing with you. And yes, awesome things. Excellent. Let's quickly move on to Ali. Ali, welcome. And yeah, give us
Wow.
yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here.
I don't think I can follow that. That's like the best testimony ever. So I will say on a professional update, I'm trained as a futurist, and my real passion is helping to see where organizations and people want to go and making a strategic plan to get there. So I actually just came back from a trip this week to SpaceX in Boca Chica, Texas, where they're building the biggest rocket in the world that's going to help us go to Mars. And so it's just incredible to have this vision and to see an incredibly large community that has set their mind on something that's huge and big and hard, and they're taking step-by-step plan to get there. And so it just reminds me back in terms of what we're talking about today, right? Having a big future vision of where we want to go and being willing to do the work. Keeping that in mind, not just a list of requirements, but an understanding of where we as a people want to be, and a sensibility of, okay, we can't lose sight of that. And it's just like in the scripture, right? That the Lord says, here's what heaven's going to be like. Here's where we're going. And so from here to there, walk that path and get toward it. And so that's what makes me really excited, I think, right now in this season. Personally, I will say my highlight, I mean, nothing compared to John's, but it's the end of summer here in Texas and the weather is getting better. So I'm excited this morning because we went from being crazy, sweltering hot to it's almost bearable outside. And so I know that seems like a really small thing, but we get really excited about the incoming of fall here in Texas. So that's what I'm excited about.
I always say, God says that, His word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. A lamp being something that's short-term vision, and a light being something that gives us a futuristic vision, so
Yeah,
that we are aware of
absolutely.
both what to do now and what to do in the future. So, thank you. Thank you
Well
for letting
said.
out.
We like to talk about the ecosystem of things and that trends are like forces that blow us around. Like if
Yeah.
you're driving a boat, right? And so we want to navigate those. So I love kind of the view of trends as what helps us understand how to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Great. I want to move to my brother Kamal. Kamal, welcome. Thank you for being on the
Thank you,
show for the
Nancy. Thank
first
you.
time.
Yeah, I'm so excited about being here with you guys. I've seen your show so many times, and now to be with you here, that's such a privilege. And uh, Ali, John, I don't know, I'm not going to beat both of your stories. I don't think I can. You've got beautiful testimonies. So I'm Kamal. I live in Lebanon, in Beirut. And on a professional note, I've been working with digital ministries and in technology for the past 14 years now. It's been such an amazing privilege to serve the Lord here in the MENA region with so many amazing ministries spread all over the region. Um, and lately with FaithTech and being around such amazing groups of people, technologists. It's been such a wonderful time that we'll definitely talk about later today as well. On a personal note, everybody asks me this question whenever we meet for the first time. Why did you get married so young? And is this a cultural thing in Lebanon? No, it's not. I got a bit crazy when I was 18. I got married, and I now have a family with three amazing, beautiful kids. And on a second personal note, my family and my wife and I, Melissa, we have decided to homeschool our kids, which is also not a very common thing to do here in Lebanon. So it's been such a wonderful, challenging, and yet rewarding journey for us, learning about homeschooling and offering that to our children. So yeah, that's a bit of a background about me.
Thank you so much, Kamal. Thank you. I love that. I love the updates, both the personal one, and you're also in the cutting edge, of part of technology with FaithTech. You guys are doing something amazing. So we'll hear more about that in a minute. But I just want to encourage our viewers to ask questions and be open, engage with us. Anything that you want to ask, feel free to ask. And we're going to get started with three big agenda in front of us. So we're going to talk about the emerging technology trends from three unique perspectives. So we're going to
Mhm.
start off with Kamal. So Kamal is going to jump in and we're going to talk about AI, those two letters that every single one of you in this webinar, I'm sure you are hearing those two letters at least like 50 times or 100 times a day, if not more. You open your email, it's all over. You open your YouTube, it's all over. And that's what we all keep hearing. So we will start with that, and then we will go into redemptive technologies. I'm excited about that one that Ali is going to lead us with, and then we will go into the most important cyber security topic with John, who is an expert in that space. So that's the agenda for today, as you all already know. So let's dive right in. Let's jump into the topic. So Kamal, if you're ready, then we can just jump right in and take us through AI as an emerging trend. We all know that it's an emerging trend, but what is the right perspective? How do we look at it? How do we approach it? So give us some insights on what you are seeing from where you are, from your vantage point. What are you seeing, and how can we as ministries, we have church leaders, we have media ministry leaders, we have media teams. So from all of our perspectives, how should we look at AI? Just open our eyes to some new things that we may not have thought of.
Sure, absolutely. I'd love to do that, Nachi. And of course, I've been on this journey with FaithTech for the past year and a half now, and that gave me the great opportunity to connect with ministries, especially here in the MENA region and elsewhere, of course. One thing that I've seen and noticed that tech entrepreneurs are actually reshaping this landscape. It's across the globe, but this is something that we focus on at FaithTech. We want to equip Christian technologists, and we know their potential when it comes to actually equipping our ministries and supporting every kingdom-based project. So with that in mind, we believe that there can be significant innovation in the church by those people. And we see that there's a huge opportunity. What we are talking about here is a uniquely Jesus way of building technology. I know Ali is going to unpack that a bit later on, but I can't skip mentioning the redemptive way of building tech. And this is the most amazing feeling when every technologist learns that I can use my skills to build the kingdom, and I can do it in a different way, using a different approach, in a very practical way that is uniquely a Jesus way that will transform my city, my community, but that will also transform me in the process. And man, that statement for me was life-changing, honestly, when I first learned about it. With that as an intro, let's jump into AI and what AI is doing and how it's changing the landscape as well. So basically, artificial intelligence is a wave that's actually sweeping the world. We are either riding that wave or we are watching from the shores. And that's something that I've had in my conversations with ministries. We shouldn't be watching from the shore. This is the time that we act, and we act fast, because technology is advancing so quickly. So we know that there's loads of new tools and information coming out every single day. And this is definitely impacting our day-to-day lives. But the question has been, will it reshape the very fabric of the ministry landscape? My answer to that is yes, it will. We need to adapt, we need to learn, we need to understand what is happening, because it's definitely changing and reshaping. So one of the key questions we get from ministry leaders in the region, especially all the time, is, will our workforce be affected? Will the people working for us be affected? We can ignore, and maybe we have been ignoring that question for some time now, but at some point we have to admit that it is affecting those who are working for us. So we either equip them and give them the right training, and I'm going to say this in a funny way, we need to welcome AI to our team at some point. This is going to be part of our team, whether we like it or not. As you said, Nachi, this isn't a trending topic anymore. This is part of our day-to-day life. So studies show that the people who seem to know their AI the most are creative teams at this stage. And the people who are a bit lacking behind are the leaders and the ministry leaders in that case. And this is where we're trying to support and help them understand what's happening. Maybe it's been, it wasn't in our budgets before to invest or to sign up for all these AI tools or equip our teams and get them all these subscriptions that they need. Now we have to make some space for that in our budgets. So from ideation to copywriting to content creation, AI is definitely changing the game. Now, in practice, if we want to give some examples, definitely we cannot ignore talking about chatbots, natural language processing systems, and the impact of that. What can chatbots actually do? Chatbots can definitely provide guidance, answer questions about faith. They can be implemented to answer some complex theological questions. They can be properly trained on specific topics. We can have some personalized content and devotionals and prayer suggestions to meet individual needs. There's so many use cases that I wish we had enough time to go through today. Another key thing is, of course, content creation. And we've seen so many tools around content creation as well. But one of the most impressive use case for me was localizing content in such a very quick way. Multilingual content translation. This is going to really accelerate the efforts of every ministry in so many ways, whether it's through translating content, adding subtitles to a video as simply as that, or even dubbing with voiceovers and so on. There's so many tools doing a great job with that. And now in Arabic, it's not really perfect yet, but it's advancing so quickly, and it's going to be great really soon. So
I was just going to ask in terms of Arabic, because I know that our audience, the moment you said that, I know there's going to be questions saying, what about Arabic, translation? Thanks for covering that. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Thank you, Nachi. Yeah, definitely. That's a key question. Translation is not perfect yet in Arabic, but it's improving so quickly, just like everything else is advancing fast. Of course, when that is ready in Arabic, we're hoping to be able to generate like sermon outlines, short devotionals, and quickly create some social media posts based on that as well. Of course, we can see the advancement when it comes to video and audio editing tools today. I mean, people would ask, will this replace my editor? Should I hire another editor, or will AI replace my editor? In my personal opinion, no. What you used to do in a 2 weeks frame can now be done in 15 minutes. So let's think about it in a positive way. Can we create even more content? Can we reach even more people? You make better use of our time. We will always need our creativity and our input. I'm not a big fan of the creativity of AI at all. Yeah, I'm not even impressed yet. Maybe one day it will even improve further, but at this stage, I'm still not impressed with any output given by AI alone as a standalone tool. And here I must share the story. I mean, my son, every day I come back home, shares with me like 5 or 6 new AI tools. And this is astonishing for me. As much as I am involved with this conversation every day, I keep learning about new tools from him, from my 11-year-old son. And this is astonishing because we have to start looking at the next generation. They're really understanding this much quicker than we are.
I totally agree.
Before I talk about the final point of an AI trend here, I must say this. As ministry leaders, one of the key things and most important things that we can do is to invest in this next generation. We need new leaders. And I'm saying that with a big heart. I'm 36 years old, and I already feel I need the next generation to come and help me lead, or give them the opportunity to lead as well, because this tech ecosystem is really changing the game, and they understand it, they get it. So moving on, one final thing, one key thing for me is predictive analytics for outreach and for missions. This is a key area where we can really make use of AI and the help that it can provide when it comes to data-driven decision-making for maybe resource allocation and mission, or for evangelism, and we have so many data to look at. So we can get so much insights with the help of AI. So we can actually make better decisions in the future. So to end with this, AI isn't a trend anymore that will fade away. This is actually an opportunity that we have now, and it can give us a competitive edge on how we approach digital ministry work. So this isn't something that's trending and it's going away soon. This is time to embrace it and welcome it to the team, as I said. Of course, we need to give it the right job description because there is so many ethical considerations that we need to take care of as well. So we need to give it the right job description. We need to discern how to use this tool in a redemptive way and not in a reckless way. We keep saying at FaithTech, we're spirit-led, data-driven. So we'll never let the technology or any data or any info drive us. We always want to be spirit-led. We want the Holy Spirit to lead us into making those decisions, into investing in the right tools, into equipping our teams, into hiring the right people, and into going to the right training and understanding and investing in ourselves as leaders to learn more and understand where this technology is actually taking us.
Thank you so much, Kamal. That's a lot of information. Really appreciate that. I appreciate all the various things, that you touched upon with respect to AI. Just want to quickly remind you to ask your questions or share your thoughts and comments during the webinar at any time using the Q&A button. If you're not able to answer your questions right there in the chat window or in the Q&A window, we will make sure that we answer them towards the end, but we will try and cover all questions and make sure we answer every single question that you put in there. So go ahead and ask your questions. Thank you. Let's get back to our discussion. I'm going to first go to John and Ali and get their inputs related to this, or if they have any questions or thoughts to add.
Yeah, so love it. I couldn't agree more, Kamal, with the idea that I love how you communicate that AI is going to fundamentally change the way we do business, the way we function, the way we build teams. Can you identify a few, one or two ways that I, as a person who has less, if I was a person who has less experience in AI, how can I learn that stuff? How can I find the right people to trust? How do if I agree, which you're absolutely right, that it's going to change that, how do I get into that ecosystem and make it work for me and not against me?
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely so many resources to look at. I can point people to what FaithTech is doing with the technology trends that we have on our website, and so many good articles on there that we are sharing. Of course, maybe to get involved with the AI collective efforts as well. And there's so much going on. But from your question, Ali, I can also continue to say that we're having a hackathon this coming November. And this is an invitation to everyone who wants to get involved, who wants to learn more about practically solving some key challenges for our ministries. So what we want to do with this hackathon is bring the Christian technologists around the ministry teams and ministry leaders to come together so we can highlight those key challenges for our ministries, and on the course of 48 hours, try to come up with creative solutions and build solutions. This is scheduled for November. This is going to be the first MENA hackathon, Christian hackathon, of course. So please reach out to Nachi, to any one of us, if you want to learn more on how to get involved with this hackathon. This is an opportunity for any ministry if they want to learn how to be more involved with this tech ecosystem.
Awesome. I will make sure we have the links in the chat for all you guys. So make sure you check it out and participate. Hackathons are awesome. That's where innovation happens. And also that's where connections happen and kingdom innovation builds, especially when you see another person developing something, it sparks, because we are one body in Christ. So we encourage each other, we inspire each other, and we push each other to go beyond the limits. And somebody said, for the very first time as the body of Christ, we have the opportunity to grow along with one technology. Otherwise, we always play catch up. It's like we're catching up with social media, we're catching up with technology, but with AI, we have this incredible opportunity to kind of grow, and hackathons are a great way to do that. Thank you so much. Thanks, FaithTech team, for doing that. Really
Thank you,
look
Nancy.
forward to it, and it will transform the MENA region. Absolutely. John, any thoughts?
I think it's fantastic that we're just even having this conversation. And so I see sometimes in ministries that we get caught up in shiny object syndrome. So like something's new and we jump into it, and you're mature in your usage of this, Kamal. And so I would be curious what is the thing that worries you as you see the implementation of some of these things? As we look to the future, in the military, there's a phrase, forewarned is forearmed. So as we look to the future, there's tremendous promise, but what are some of the things that maybe, and yeah, I'll talk cyber part in a little bit, maybe, but I'm just in the usage. How do you, when people use some of these tools, how do you see them using it in ways right now that kind of scare you? Or you can answer this one, which of the new stuff of this does worry you the most as you look to this and think, okay, we've got to get on top of this part of it? Either one of those, I'd be fascinated to know your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, John. That's an amazing question. There's definitely so many reckless use cases for AI, but thinking from a ministry point of view, what worries me the most is, and I know this because of our experience and interaction with people, and I'm sure MII know this very well. We don't want to replace the human connection with artificial intelligence. And one of the first questions we get whenever we're connecting with someone new through a digital ministry is people ask, are you a bot or a human? And that's been the question even before AI. Now it's even more confusing for people to know the difference, to be able to know the difference. So we definitely want to accelerate what we're doing and reach more people and be able to connect and maybe filter out some of the difficult messages that we receive on a single basis, every day. But we don't want to neglect those true seekers that are looking for a human connection, and they have so many questions to ask about Jesus, but they don't want to interact with a machine eventually. So this is really an area where it's challenging for us as ministries. And so simply said, we don't want to replace humans with machines at any point.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you
For
so
sure.
much. Really appreciate it. All right, let's move on to Ali. I'm excited about redemptive technology. The first time I heard this was a while ago when we had Adam Grabber and James Kelly on this show, and we talked about redemptive technology. I was totally blown away by some of the things that I heard. So I want to hear more. I want you to unpack more. So Ali, once again, welcome to the show. So awesome to have you. Please take us through redemptive technology. Give us some insights into how we should look at the future from the perspective of redemption.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'll start with this. One of my favorite books is Simon Sinek, and he wrote a book called Starts With Why. And my brother has illustrated a lot about the future and the tools and the trends, but I love that Simon in that book says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do proves what you believe. And so I'm going to help talk about the future by looking backwards and starting with talking about the why. And just like you said, redemptive technology is all about our why. So the big question is this: does technology development contribute to human flourishing on earth? God loves people. God's heart is about people growing in knowledge and service of him. So does technology help us do that? And our response is absolutely so. All of us work in technology every day, but far more important than the fact that that's our work is that we are Christians who know that Jesus is Lord. And so we live a life shaped by the scriptures, and the scriptures are fundamentally the story of God's redemption of his work on earth. And that's why redemptive technology matters. So let's really start at the beginning. And Genesis 1:1 tells us, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. God's first action was creation. And in that human origin story, he created us in his image and his likeness in order that we would co-create with him, right? It's that action of alongside with God, creating for the good of people. That's the whole story of human flourishing. So in Genesis, right, we have a 7-day creation account where God turns a watery void into an incredible environment where life can grow and thrive. Then God rests, takes up residence with himself in his created world, and then fills it with life that he could dwell with humans. And then what's his mandate to us? How does God commission us as humans? He commands us to be fruitful and multiply, that we would fill the space that he inhabits. And then he gives us a higher calling even than that. He tells us, he creates us in his image and his likeness. We're like God in a way animals are not, and we're instructed to subdue the earth and have dominion over it. We create because God created us to create. And so from that very beginning, to be human meant to be technologically minded. I love languages, right? Technology comes from the root word techne, which means to do work. And technology just helps us do work, which is part of what God created us to do. We find our identity as image bearers, and we live and create in that in such a way that reflects the image of God in us and in other people. And so redemptive technology really starts with this. What are the tools we've been given to change how the work functions and to change what's possible for our fellow humans? So we start with those users. What do they need, and how can we use technology to help them know God, to help them flourish, to help them be whole? Our identity as creators of technology really is as that image-bearing, co-creating one with the creator. And we can only do this by rationally subduing nature, subduing the world, right? Sometimes that's cybersecurity threats. Sometimes that's artificial intelligence. Sometimes that's helping analyze the data for the good of humans. Like, it's so many things where technology is just one more way that we do that. So how do we do that? We go from Genesis 1 to Genesis 2, right? In Genesis 2, the earth begins as a barren desert where there's no rain and no man to work the ground. So what does God do? He causes a mist to rise from the ground and forms a man from that dust. And he places that man in the garden to work it and keep it. We were created partially too because God needed caretakers for his creation. And part of our call as we talk about redemptive technology is to look around at our fellow humans and go, they need caretakers, they need helpers, they need shepherds. I think of the story where Jesus looked out over humans and grieved because they were like people who had sheep who had no shepherd. Right. And so today, in a world laden with food shortages and water shortages, with changing climate, with global pandemics, with governments that are sometimes antagonistic to faith, right? The likeness of God is seen not just in the pastor, the teacher, absolutely there, but also in the scientist and the engineer and those who look out to formulate solutions for those problems that people would walk in wholeness and freedom. So what comes next, right? Sin enters the world through deception and lies. And what happens in scripture, right? Humans covered themselves to hide their shame and their guilt. And so God then takes the earth's raw materials, which in this case was an animal, and leaves, right? Sacrificing it to make a more effective technology, which was clothes. We learned from the beginning that humans' posture is to use technology to cover things, and those upgrades come with a real and sacrificial price. right? So technology is used to extend salvation. It's also used in lots of cases to hide and cover up sin. And we're aware of both sides. So we have to take a lens of technology to understand the human heart. So let's talk next for a minute about Genesis 6, right? The Lord regretted that he made human beings, right? His heart was deeply troubled. But God, in his mercy, sent an ark, right, to provide redemption and to get through Noah a blueprint to advance this. Technology can be part of how God reaches back into humans and says, here's my plan for the redemption of all people. So we saw this happen in Genesis 11 at the Tower of Babel, right? There's bricks that people tried to use to reach up to heaven, right? To try to be like God. And people use bricks and languages to be divided and then be reunited. It's interesting to me that now in redemptive technology, languages and uniting languages again is such a focus of how AI can help us change that future. But as we saw the building of that tower, right, humanity thought that they could use technology to reach God for their own benefit. It appears creative and cooperative, but it's really problematic. People were trying to make a name for themselves, elevating their technological achievements as the object of their worship rather than God. And so as we kind of reach into this, we always want to step back and remember, like, what's the object of our worship? Because we never want technology to be the object of our worship. Technology is a tool that only brings benefit insofar as it makes God the object of our worship. It helps people to know him. One of my favorite stories is Crew has a community known as Indigenous, and they talk about every tribe, tongue, people, and touchscreen, right? Touchscreens have given us access into what is now the largest digital mission field on earth. And that's the right perspective on technology, right? It gives us an interface into people. It's not we worship the touchscreen. It's not that gives us an identity. It's that it extends the reach of the gospel into places that are harder to go and enables us to do that. So do we see anything like this in our world today? Because technology is so central to what humans can do, it serves as an expression of human values and desires, right? It's only a reflection of people. Technology itself is neutral, and it can magnify people's brokenness or it can magnify their wholeness in the gospel. We believe that God views technology as enabling both of those, and we can't undervalue that. So as Christian technologists, we have a major role to play. Like Kamal mentioned, we believe AI is one of the most powerful technologies in the world. It gives us tremendous potential for doing good. And so we want to help people think about how to use that. And our creative capacities and technological mindedness is really a gift from God to help do redemption. So what do we think about that? So we have practical tools. In FaithTech, we talk about a 4-step framework for how we build redemptive technologies. And so we think about 4 steps: discover, discern, develop, and demonstrate. And we give people this kind of framework so that they're not just getting pulled into one of those pieces, but they're really pressing in to take a rounded view of that we wouldn't get caught in our own limited perspective. I think one of the best things about redemptive technology is it emphasizes our need for each other, that none of us build in a vacuum, that we all build because of our interdependency as humans. We need each other. And that's why hackathons are such an incredible opportunity, because we get drawn into community, we get drawn into teams where we hear other people's views, use other people's skills, and recognize that together we can do something that none of us can do on our own. And in my mind, that's a very redemptive perspective in terms of how we do that.
Wow, thank you. That was awesome. I love how you connected the scriptures to some of these things, and right from Genesis, looking at how we should look at technology. So I have a quick question, but first I'll go to John. Any thoughts, John? Any thoughts on what Ali shared?
Oh, I love the comment that we love God, not technology, but that it's a force multiplier. Like it enhances
Absolutely.
our ability to serve him. And so what an amazing time we're in to do that, but to fail to love the creator of the technology that we're using, and then instead to love the technology would be sinful and wrong. And so I love how you lay this out. It was so well done.
Absolutely. I agree. Kamal, any thoughts to add to that? I know you are deep into that. So you're muted.
Yeah, absolutely, Nati. One of the most astonishing things for me was when I was also studying this topic, and I learned that Jesus himself was a technologist. And I love that. Today we look at technology through mobile phones and laptops and tablets and machines and all that kind of stuff. But carpentry during those days was an amazing advanced technology at the time. And so Jesus was the technologist himself. Uh, but what I want to ask Ali is if she can unpack a little bit more about the practical ways of building redemptive technology, especially when we talk about the first two phases, because we tend, and Ali, please confirm that, we tend as technologists to jump straight into building things and building solutions. And we, so many times, we often skip the discovery phase and the discernment phase. We don't do proper discernment. And that has been sadly one of the things that ministries are challenged with the most. We don't discern if this is a tool that we need to build or it is already existing out there. So yeah, maybe Ali, you can unpack that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. In a lot of the technology world, we talk about user-centered design, right? We talk about understand the humans, and I think that's really what I love about the discovery phase. So in that, we want to know the problem that we're solving. So we tend to jump to the solution, and discovery is all about don't jump to the solution. First, look at why is the situation this way? Why are people facing the challenges that they're facing? And what really are those redemptive opportunities? In FaithTech, we have a lot of elements under that. We talk about you want to listen first to people and to God. You want to lament why we have the problem that we have. And that's really countercultural, isn't it? Like in our world, we don't lament that. We just be like, fix it, push the button, right? And so lamenting where we are, because that gives us wisdom in our product creation and enables us to kind of go to the next phase, which is discernment. And as we go into discernment, right? Discernment is about, I don't lean on my own wisdom, I lean on God's. And so now that I've taken a minute to lament, I can understand where those redemptive opportunities are. I've been in a lot of hackathons where people go, I just want to build a prayer app, or I just want to build things that are fine and there may be a need for. But the key of redemptive technology is going, who do I want to serve? Why are they in the situation they are? And how can I help them? Not help me. I'm not elevating my role of I have the answer. I'm elevating the opportunity to serve. And that's where the door really opens for redemption. And so kind of in that discernment process, we can take different postures before we proceed into development. We want to reject the idea that technology is always the solution. We want to receive wisdom from God where we're curating the need and the understanding that we have and reimagine what that future is as we create it. And so I really think it's kind of some of those things that help us lead into a healthy posture for development that can be sustainable over the long term, and not just the next shiny app in the App Store.
Thank you. Thank you, Ali, for explaining that. So I have one quick question before we move on to cybersecurity. We have both beginners and intermediary and advanced level listeners that are listening to us. So for some of the beginners, what would be your tip vis-a-vis a little more experienced people? Just how can they go about thinking about redemptive technological trends for the future?
Absolutely. So my first key really, and you guys can see from what I've shared, is read the scripture. Read the scripture. People don't think of that as a key to new redemptive technology development, but it is. We want to be informed by the story. And so as we immerse ourselves in the biblical foundations, we enable God to give us wisdom beyond our own. I'd say the next key tip that I would have, and this is available to everyone, right? Talk to your users. Talk to your users. Ask good questions. Center your focus and design around them. Keep asking them, why is this hard? What do you need? What would help you? Not what would help me, what would help you? Ask them lots of questions and attempt to go deeper in understanding their situation, because I guarantee you it will always be fruitful in your development when you do that. And then I'd say, kind of maybe on the more advanced side, my number one recommendation as a person who works in technology is experiment. Experiment, risk more, explore the realm of possibility and see what happens. Because in the days to come, what we're going to need is resilience and responsiveness, and that comes from experience. So the more we delve into this, the more you have the experience that enables you to take more risks. And so as we do that in a community that is interdependent with each other, it's going to help us have an institutional knowledge, for lack of a better term, that equips us so that when the days to come are hard, and they will be, right? The scripture is clear. We have an insight and a wisdom and a collective knowledge that's going to help us respond together.
So good. So good. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Before we proceed, just one more quick reminder about Q&A. If you have any questions or thoughts or comments or anything that you want to share with us, use the Q&A button that you see and ask all your questions and share your thoughts, and we will make sure that we answer every single question. There is an expert standing by live answering every single question. If you're not able to get to your question right away, hold on. We will get to it towards the end. Every single question will be answered as much as possible. Thank you so much. Keep those questions coming. Now let's get back to our discussion. Awesome. So we move to the third part of our discussion, which is cybersecurity. So, John, thank you so much for being here, and thanks for all your wisdom that you brought to our shows even earlier. So I wanted to jump right in and kind of take us through some of the things that we need to think about from a cybersecurity perspective. I mean, we've got media teams here, we've got leaders here, and there, as you know, the world right now is in a very interesting space, to say the least. So what
Right.
should we be thinking about, John, especially as media ministries?
Yeah, so I want to lean into specifically to the context of what we're talking about today when we talk cybersecurity. And so I think I need to almost just say from the beginning, and nothing is 100% safe. And so when you start, there is nothing that is bulletproof. So it's a sliding scale. Some things are more safe than others, but we have to use our tech with faith and with our eyes open, but not reject it just out of fear, because it is here. And this is the interesting thing with artificial intelligence, is that it's already here. It's been here for quite a while, actually. In fact, there's a great podcast that the National Security Agency does, the NSA. That podcast is called No Such Podcast, which is a funny play on the agency itself, that it used to stand for No Such Agency. But they talk about that even AI uses in cybersecurity has been around for years and years and years. It's just getting better and faster. And as much as what Kamal said, the prompts are getting easier, the way these things are working together it's amazing. And in fact, I'll just give you an example before I'm going to give you like 3 or 4 key things here, big nuggets to it. Is One of the ways that you can see how AI has been working is if you're on Meta or Facebook, and how it'll give you a friend suggestion, or it will tag a picture of somebody and say, is this person? Now that can be really freaky. That can actually be really, really freaky. I was on a Zoom call with, ended up being about 4 other guys, and all 4 of them worked in the United States for intelligence agencies, and they are now all outside of that. So they're now outside of it. But one of the things each one of them said to me individually was how Meta, its friend suggestion, was able to find other people who were still in these agencies and recommend them as friends. That's how powerful these algorithms and tools are, is that nobody should be able to know that you are working in this kind of a thing and it can figure it out. Or we think, well, I'm just not going to put my picture up on Facebook and that will protect me. No, the ability to video capture now in countries like China, Saudi Arabia, other places is unbelievably accurate, even in the midst of a crowd. But even more is your audio. To be able to audio match someone and to fingerprint them in essence through their audio is almost, it's getting close to 100% accuracy. And so there are people who wish to do evil in this world. And there are nation states and organizations, especially organized crime and others, who wish to do harm or to stop the spread of the gospel. And so part of my character flaw is that I have OCD. And so I have an obsessive curiosity disorder. And so I'm always curious at things. And so even when I look back at seeing from being a pastor to being a professor to end up being a missionary to using technology to starting an agency to leaning into cyber, it was just because I was curious. But more than anything is I want to see the people in these countries where your listeners are at protect the seekers who are becoming believers who don't have the option of leaving the country if things get hard. How do we protect them? And so this is real. Just in 2023, deep fakes increased by 245% in AI generated scams. And when you look in countries like China and India, that is in the over 1,000% increase of deep fake scams. So whether it be video, whether it be audio, it's simple. It's unbelievably easy to spoof a phone number or to steal an SMS code or to do all sorts of stuff. We've got to do better at protecting, especially those who are the most vulnerable. And so as we look at the protection of this and we look to the future, it's with our eyes open, and it's going to impact so much. One of the books that impacted me drastically to start even just leaning into cyber myself was Kai Fu's book that's called AI 2041. And he gives 10 areas of how AI and technology by the year 2041 can come about. It's everything from geopolitics and transportation, wealth distribution, our healthcare, environmental sustainability, a ton of stories. So it's a story and then the application. It's fascinating. And he is brilliant. But what impacted me as I read that book, and I've read it now actually 3 times because I keep coming back to it, is that it's not 2041. We're seeing some of these things already. The technology is going so fast. And when it's spinning and it's changing literally day to day, how do we stay secure? Well, here's a few things that I would say from a cyber just security perspective. And I am in no way a super expert. I am a novice that's just been leaning into it and lean to others who are then those experts at it. And I'd be happy to connect people up with them. But a key thing here, both personally and as a ministry, is data protection and privacy. So whether we're talking about an LLM, a large language model, or as Kamal brought up earlier, the natural language processing, or let's just say Chat GPT, and you go, hey, I'm going to bring in all of my data to this, and I'm going to let it do an analysis of how good are my ads doing, or whatever that might be. There are a few key things here, and one of them, as just pure cybersecurity, is data encryption. If you're doing things and your data is not encrypted, both in transit, so when you're working over and you'll see the padlock, HTTPS, but also at rest, which means when your data is sitting there on that server, you are at risk. And one of the biggest areas I think ministries have to get on top of is having cyber insurance. We pay a stupid amount of money because of our company to have cybersecurity insurance and liability insurance. And they're going to ask you tough questions about cybersecurity. Where is your data stored? Where are those servers located? Who has access? All of that. And so what I would say is use this technology, but make sure your data is encrypted. Make sure that your data is minimized. In other words, limit the amount of data that's being given to these models. Don't take your most sensitive information and just upload it to the cloud and think, oh, well, everything is fine there. It can be leaked. There's all sorts of things that could happen. And so what I would encourage people to do, one step of that is anonymize your data. So if you're going to use real world data, then take out people's names, take out what's called PII, personal identifiable information, do those kind of things, and then use those. Or even more, just run it locally. There are some really cool programs that are out there that allow you to run your own version of a chat bot or like Chat GPT right on your computer with no internet access. I've tested it. I turned off everything. Works still really good. And I can do a multi-model version of it. So in other words, I can use this one from this company and this one from this company, and I'm getting the best of both worlds. And so I would encourage people to do that. It's very important. And I'll give a software recommendation at the very end of this, but one of the ways, and it's not the only one, but one of the ways to do that. So data privacy and protection are going to be important. Another thing that's going to be important, I think, with all of this is just who has access to it. Like we've got to do better at who is getting roles of who is being able to do whatever. And so when you're in a big firm, yes, there's a need to know, there's zero trust environment where everything is you're trying to use tools. But I think we need to think about with our data, who gets access to that. And so one of the biggest areas, and I'm going to come back because we're a social media marketing agency, is what information we're putting out there, because that information is being used in some of these LLMs. So just good cybersecurity, don't put that you're on vacation or don't put that you're gone on a personal level. Don't watch the metadata that you're putting on your pictures. I see people all the time go overseas on a mission trip and now they're taking pictures and they're talking about this. But even a big one is your friend list. So there was a mission organization that I did some consulting with, and I found 17 of their most sensitive workers in their location. 9 of those 17 I found in less than an hour, and I didn't do a single technology tool. I used what's called open source intelligence. In other words, I went to their head of security and I looked who was on their friend list. And then I looked at their list. It said these people's names and their first and last name, just initials, and in what country or area, and you just match them up. And it was right. So over half of their people I was able to find just by looking at their friend list. So make these things private. Don't give people more access than they need. All right. Another one would be multi-factor. So if you're going to be using a lot of this data and a lot of this information, really control it. Add layers of security to what you are doing and use multiple step verification. There's these things right here. These are what's called YubiKeys, and we use them on every account. So even if you have my password and my username, without this physical YubiKey, you're not getting in those accounts. Now, they just came out with an exploit to YubiKeys. So, but it's already been fixed. So if you buy a new one, if you listen to the podcast and you go out there and buy new ones, you'll be okay. But really control who has access and use multi-factor authentication. And then even when you're using like an API, so this is tools that allow you to use one program and connect it to another one, which is great for ministries. If you're using Planning Center or you're using anything, be checking the security of these pipes that connect these different things together. In fact, I'll give a takeaway right now. As soon as you're done with this webinar, go to your accounts, let's say Meta and Facebook, and see which programs you gave access to your Facebook account. Maybe it was Candy Crush. Maybe it was some other thing. Go back through the list and just see, is that what you still wanting them to have access to it? All right. And so last one here, and then I'm going to give you a piece of software I recommend, is just the confidentiality and the integrity of the data itself. So I think that there's the ability that we have to watch out with the things that are being done. So we can watermark some of our AI generated things, because this is Google. In fact, they just announced that they're going to start limiting some of this because of this concern with deep fakes, because the content generation is getting better and better. Ideas, the videos, the pictures, amazing from a content generation. It's continuing to get better and better. But there is this pushback from a cybersecurity side to say, okay, well, you need to start announcing when you've used these tools. So if your ministry uses some tool, don't be surprised, get ahead of this, that you just start putting watermarks, or you start protecting what you're putting out there, so that people can, there's like digital watermarks in essence to protect what you're putting out. Because I can see people weaponizing these tools. If I wanted to shut down a ministry, I would go out there and I would find the list of every person that's working in it, and I would create deep fakes, or I would take their email addresses. I would send links to them to try to get them to click on things. I would have them putting out deep fake videos. I would be reporting them so that there's fines like GDPR, which could be 15% of your gross income as an organization. Like, it's massive. So I worry about the weaponization of some of these things against the cause of Christ, of what we're trying to do. So watch out that your data doesn't get poisoned, that there's not that you control the inputs to it. When you don't know and you say, well, here, I'm going to use a chatbot and let's hope it answers as Jesus, well, the Jesus chatbot, be careful that what goes into that data is what's going to come out as well. So control that data that goes into it. And then maybe as a side note to it, really make sure that you're being compliant. This is why it comes back cybersecurity, but also just legal compliance. All right. So the piece of software that I am using and we're exploring, and we use it in some of our most secure locations, is called Diode, Diode. And it creates a blockchain, zero trust environment, similar to a virtual private network, which you need to be using the tools like that. But you can control all of your data and all of its endpoints. So in our most sensitive locations, where we're running like discipleship CRM software or whatever, we can use this public and private key blockchain software that creates a secure tunnel, so that even if you were to get the URL, which isn't a normal domain name URL, it's just this long blockchain address, unless you can get into that zero trust environment, you can't trace it. You can't see it. And so we can create our own digital nodes, and I can see exactly. So I could say only Nachi, Ali, and Kamal can see this document, and nobody else in the world. I think with our LLM storage, we need to add that level of military grade security to our private, most sensitive data as we start looking at LLMs and AI and things like that. So there's a script that we have that we use some of those. I will give it away. So it's all open source. I will help people to it. Once again, there's lots more technical things that go beyond my brain to it, but I'm happy to connect people to others that are a lot smarter and have leaned a lot more into this as well. But these would be a few things, at least, that I would recommend.
Wow, those are pure gold. And I'm sure people are like very seriously taking notes, because these are some of the things that really wake you up, so and things that you never thought about. So thank you so much, John. Really appreciate it. Before we wrap up, I know we've come to the end of our time, but I quickly want to get at least some thoughts, if not questions, from Ali and Kamal. So let's start with Kamal. Any thoughts, comments on that?
Lots of thoughts, lots of thoughts. Such a great, insightful talk, John. Definitely also fascinated by the opportunity that blockchain can help secure our communication, especially for me, thinking about that, living in a hostile region. I know that how that's important. But my question to you would be, what would you say to those people who are um, becoming familiar with platforms recommending content to us based on even our conversations? I remember a few years ago, I noticed that happening even before AI. And whenever I'm having a conversation with a friend, I start getting ads about the thing we were talking about. And when I talked with that with some of my tech friends, they used to mock me and say, no, this isn't real. It's just a coincidence. Today, I think everyone realized that this has become a normal thing. What would you say to those who are saying this is normal, completely normal? Like my phone is listening to me constantly. This platform is actually listening to my conversations and recommending content to me based on that. This shouldn't be normal at all. So what would you say about that, John?
Yeah, I am not a conspiracy theorist. I don't wear like aluminum foil on my head. I do like technology, and so I use it. If I would have been one of those people a couple years ago going, oh no, it's just a coincidence. What we do know though, and what I'm confident on now is that it can use your IP address. It can look at what if somebody else is on the same Wi-Fi network. So if my wife has been looking at something, I will see those kind of ads on Facebook pop up in my feed because it sees the connection there. The searches that are there. What is happening is so much of this data is being sold. So there are data brokers that can look at every search, everything that you're doing, and they sell it. Your cell phone providers are giving out your information. Like there's just so much lack of privacy in the world that we live in today, that we do need to do better in this. There are exploits that can allow people to listen in. There are exploits that allow your cameras not to come on. So when those are found, they're plugged, which is why it's so important to keep your software up to date. Use secure software, use a VPN, encrypt your traffic and whatever. But I still don't think that's 100%. We've noticed through our Amazon device that when I tell it to turn off the lights at night, it still keeps there spinning and listening until I have to say stop basically to it. And there's no way to turn that thing from stopping to listen. And so I think it's going to become more and more of an issue. And I think these companies are going to be forced to come to the light, which is a biblical principle, put all these things in the light. They're going to be forced because of fines and because of governments to have to start saying, yeah, we're using this data. We're giving away your data over here. We're listening in here, whatever else. But a lot of times we give them this data for this free service. And so we're going to have to do better on that as individuals as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree because I get this question all the time on stage, like, are they listening to us and things like that? While like I agree with John, there could be some spaces where they actually listen. But I think it's also AI. If you think about it, AI is so smart that, earlier these social media companies had signals and they had algorithms that were trying to put these signals together and come up with the potential match. For example, if my wife was listening to something, then they would recommend to me and things like that. They were doing it with an algorithmic matching. But now with AI, it's so smart that if you give it 10 signals, it's able to do this mix and match, probability theory, and it's able to match it so well that you almost feel like it's listening to you. I mean, it can make those correlations with respect to your behavior in such a perfect way. And so it's partly AI, Kamal. So you got to blame your AI friends for it. So awesome. So Ali, any quick thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, my question is this. I find that so many people are afraid of cyber, and people are like, "Ooh, I need an expert to tell me what to think about that," like because it feels so unattainable. And so I feel like even in technology world, this is a subject where people have a learned helplessness about it. So can you talk for a minute about what should regular people who might not be a cyber, you've given some great tools that I think we need to be thinking about in cybersecurity world, but is this something that we should all just relinquish and just have a resident John or others on the phone, like phone a friend about? Or is there a certain level of this is the piece that everyone needs to have a general understanding about to operate, in 2024 and beyond?
Yeah, I think great question. I think of my dad, who's almost 90, and how vulnerable older people are. to being exploited to all of this technology, and it's changing so fast. And so, yes, I do believe that there's a place for those who have leaned in more to any subject matter. There's always a place for that. In fact, we need to celebrate those kind of things instead of saying, well, my opinion is, because no, there's a reason why we have experts of stuff. And if somebody were to come to me, I'm probably just going to point them to the same experts that I'm asking questions. I just ask a lot of questions and read a lot. So yes, I think that's really important to have these people, but there's a baseline of cybersecurity. And this is passwords and VPNs, passcodes, checking your software is updated. Don't click. If I could say one thing, just don't click on links. Like, don't click on links,
Preach,
email
man.
or whatever.
Preach.
So, I mean, there's things that we do that as the technology's gotten better, the scammers are. And so I'll give you a real quick 30-second one that happened to us. My phone, we're eating dinner, our phone goes off and it says, hey, Apple Card just stopped this transaction. And we're eating a meal and we're like, yay, good job for Apple Card. And then just a few minutes later, a phone call comes to my wife saying, hey, we're from Apple Card support from the bank, and we had this thing and we want to confirm some things. We need to get it right up. It was all a scam. They spoofed the name, they spoofed the number, and they were trying to get this information to gain access to then our iCloud account. We're under attack all the time. And this is not just me, this is everybody. Most of the time, they're looking for money, organized crime. But for our workers and the people on this kind of a call, no, they're looking for things to be able to do that. So be very, very wise. I think Jesus would say innocent and wise. And I think that that's important. So secure your devices, don't give away things you don't need to. But yeah, I just monitor your accounts.
Okay.
All of those things I think are really important. Just that's our new norm anymore.
Yeah,
Wow.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. So we have to come to this point where we are out of time. I can't believe this. What a great conversation. We can go on. And each of those topics is so deep. I mean, we can talk about AI all day, cybersecurity all day. And I'm sure our audience have lots of questions. So we will make sure we will answer every one of them as much as possible. And before we wrap up, I just want to say thank you, all three of you, for your precious, precious time and your expertise. We deeply appreciate it on behalf of all of us here at MII and on behalf of David and the entire team. I just want to say thank you. Really appreciate you guys. So before we wrap up, how can people connect with each one of you? If you have a preferred mode of connection, some channel or social media or anything, so how can people connect with you? So I'll start with Kamal. Kamal, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, definitely. I'm active and connected on LinkedIn. If you can share that in the chat, people can get connected with me. I'd love to connect, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you so much. Ali?
Same. I think LinkedIn is a great way to reach out. Would love to talk more.
Awesome. John?
Well, I'm terrible at marketing, which is for our own stuff. And I would prefer to work in silence in this, but now as a nonprofit, we're doing a little bit better. So LinkedIn's fine. Reach out there, say you saw something here on the webinar, and I'll try not to not respond and ghost you, and I'll get back to you there.
So there you go, guys. LinkedIn for all three of the experts. Reach out to them. Feel free to connect, and we will also make sure that we get most of our the resources that were mentioned and so on, and get back to you. Once again, thank you, John. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Kamal. God bless you, and may God continue to use you guys in the days to come. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.